pencil, a paper, and an eraser. I'm going to allow you a minute to go ahead and gather all of that. Exactly 1 minute on the clock. For those of you who are here with me, remember today was the day we're going to bring that larger paper, as large as you can find. Slightly bigger than regular computer-sized paper would be great. If you can only find computer-sized paper, that will work well too. Okay, and we're gonna come back here in 30 seconds.
Miss White, you might want to repeat your directions because a lot of school 2 kids just joined the class. Miss White, we can't hear you.
Oh. For those of you who are joining us now, you are going to grab a large piece of paper, a pencil, and an eraser. If you can only find computer-sized paper, that will work too. I'm going to give everybody about 20 more seconds. And each time we have art, we're going to use just materials like pencil and eraser and paper. I'm bringing in a few more scholars here, okay? Make sure that we're here exactly at 1:50 so we could get right to art. All right, and we are coming back in 10. I'm seeing a lot of eyes, which is excellent. Make sure each time we have class, we have a clear space. 5, 4, 3, 2. I see that Esther is prepared and ready to go because her eyes are on me. Corey, 1, and 0. Great. So last time we were in art, we began speaking about something that is going to be a magnificent outcome, and this was building our own cities. So we came together and we made a lot of different plans for our cities. What were some of the things we discussed last class around the plans? We could pick themes. So what were some of your plans? Ahmed.
Some of the plans were to, I think, put like we had to create our own, forgot, place or buildings, whatever. We would put like a park outside and any other things.
So what can go outside, I heard from that. What else? As a reminder, we're gonna get all of our things out of our hands and make sure all of our eyes are on the screen. So I'm still waiting for a few. Stephen, I wanna see your whole face. I wanna see you, Silas, Joseph. Some of you need to move your camera down a little bit more so I could see your whole face, okay? Give me a thumbs up that you're prepared.
Anthony, turn on your videos, please.
Yes, absolutely. We need our videos for art here. So I'm gonna wait a second for everyone to get prepared. Everyone thumbs up either digitally or on the screen right now. Lucas is showing me he's prepared. Thumbs up, Lucas. Great job, Sophia, Jaslia, Joanna, thumbs up. Okay, great. Now we're back. What were some other decisions we made? We took a lot of notes last class about our cities. What did we talk about building? Right, you could either raise a hand like this up in the air, or you could raise a hand on digital, okay? So Eric, what did we talk about making in our cities?
Like what type of, like what we want to add, like houses, or apartments, or different types of, like factories or stores.
Eric, I am so glad you talked about that because last class we talked about building our own city. There were different categories that we broke each one up into for you to get a really good idea. We're gonna pull up the same PowerPoint we were using last class, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more. So while your eyes are on the screen, your pencils are down for now, I will tell you when it's time to start taking notes, okay? So in presenter mode, we talked about the 5 major categories our cities will be broken down into. These were residential, commercial, institutional, industrial, and green public space. So going through each one, I wanted you to tell me what each one means. So Ahmed, pencil down, make sure your eyes are on the screen. All you're doing is tracking right now, just like Hattie. So Hattie, remind us, I kind of made this a game. What was the residential buildings for? So remember, each one had its own function. So looking at all of these, what do they look like they're for? Places where?
For people to live in.
Excellent, Hattie. These were places for people to live. Great job, Hattie. Looking at this next one. Commercial. What was commercial for? You can look at the words to give you clues. If you are choosing commercial buildings, these were areas where, what, Sophia?
People would sell things.
Sell, yeah. What else do we do with commercial?
Sell and buy things.
Excellent. Selling or buying, right? So this is all the areas that we get our day-to-day materials. Very important. Institutions, what were these? Remember, you can raise a hand digitally or with your physical hand. And I'm gonna surprise calling you. Make sure you're paying attention the whole time. Imul, did I say your name correctly? Imuel? Okay, so Imuel, I can't hear you right now, so make sure your mic's on. Sometimes we run into a little tech issues. That's okay, I'm gonna check in with you later. Masita, what is an institution for? What do you think? We see here police stations, libraries, government buildings. What are these things?
I think it's places that people could go.
Great, so what do you think the people do at these places? What do they all have in common? Want me to come back to you? Great, well, they're places people go for sure. They serve people in a sense, right? So what kind of places are these? What do they all have in common? I want to see those hands, active participation. Ooh, make sure I could see you on the screen, Quincy.
Quincy, I just sent you a personal chat about that. Ms. White should not be giving you direction on that.
Synovia, what are institutions for?
Okay, I think that institutional buildings are for like capitals and like where important people go to work, like the president and like the government, or like people who are trying to learn something, like very important places for people to go to.
Great, these are very important places, and I love that she was talking about all the systems behind them. So the exact definition was where people get or receive like government services and different services that they need. That's why you see schools, museums there. And then industrial. We're really good at this, and I love that we're internalizing all of these things and what they have in common, because these were the choices of what we will include or not include in our buildings. As you recall, we can't have everything. What were industrials for, rather? Industrial. Joseph, what do all these things have in common? What is it for?
What all these things have in common is that they all like support the people. So like water plant provides like water for people.
Excellent. So they provide for people. This was an area where transportation areas, just services where things could get discarded, right? So this was very important to have. And finally, open public space and parks. Pretty self-explanatory, but what did we say was the importance of these kinds of places in our neighborhood? Go ahead, Jaslia. Jaslia, what was the importance of having open public space and parks in our neighborhoods?
The importance of having open space and parks in neighborhoods is like where people can become active and actually get to do something outside.
Great. And just like in class, I love how when I'm calling on someone, your hands go down, your eyes go on the speaker. I'm still waiting for a few to make eye contact. Sam, make sure I could see your whole face. And Algosimu, make sure that your eyes are on the screen. Great. So we looked at all of these different kind of structures, decided what we were going to include and not include, we also kept in mind that things could be mixed in our neighborhood. So if we were torn between residential and commercial, you can combine the two. So I want you to consider that as well. By a silent show of hands, who has their notes from last class? Raise your hand if you do. Great. If you do have your notes, you're all set. If you don't have your notes, we're gonna take a 1-minute break to go and get our notes, okay? So go and get those notes. I'm gonna see about a timer right now that we can add. It's not available right now, but I'll do the counting. I'm gonna tell you when we come back. Oh, so it's 1 minute from now. You have about 30 seconds. And while you're at it, take this time to review your notes. Maybe since our last conversation that we just had with review, you would like to add something that you forgot, change things around. Quincy, make sure I could see your whole face. I'm going around, making my rounds. Anthony, looking good. Amarachi, make sure you are in the screen when you come back. Okay, and we are there in 5, coming back in 4, all prepared and ready to go in 3, 2, 1, and 0. Great, looks like I got 100% from most. Waiting for Hattie. Okay, awesome. So we're not gonna spend much time on this slide. We showed it last class. This was all the things we're gonna consider: the planner, the citizens, the owners, the government, all the things that are important to us and our town. By the way, themes. Themes were a big thing. Who here has a theme? Raise your hand if you do. I want to hear from those of you who have themes. To be clear, our pencils are down right now, and we are listening to each other. Raise a silent hand if you have a theme. Oh, I just saw Zuleya.
So my theme for my part is, I called it like Happy Land. Happy Land because it's where people should like relax themselves and hang out instead of doing like business. That's why I didn't.
What is the town called again? I didn't quite hear you. What is it called?
Happy Land.
Happy Land, where everyone is happy. Great, I love that. Let's hear from one more, a theme. And remember, a theme is really, okay, welcome back, Hattie. A theme is really cool to kind of add, but it's gonna take a lot more consideration when it comes to each building, each organization. Brianna, make sure that I can see your full head. Okay, so this class, I have messaged you on Jupiter and your families. Some of your families got back to me asking if they needed to print the worksheet. The answer was no. We are going to share this as a class and talk about what each step is going to be like. But you do need a largest paper you could find, computer size is fine or bigger, pencil and eraser. If you have Sharpies, coloring materials, I don't want you to bring those out until next class. Okay, so here's where we are going to get started. Number 1 is going to be, I'm going to stop the share here and bring us back to our paper. So getting your paper out, I'm going to show you the number 1 step. As we discussed last class, you are going to have not 1, but 2 horizon lines. What do I mean by horizon lines? What are those? Eric?
Like the horizon line is like where, like the background.
Okay, so we're blocking it off in a way that it's allowing a background, because what is a horizon line creating? Who wants to add on? Raise your hand if you want to add on. All right, go ahead, Zenobia.
Okay. So I think that a horizon line is basically something that creates distance and what do you call it? Like something that creates space between two like figures to make it seem farther away from one another.
Great. So essentially, we're talking about a line here, and it actually separates your paper into two parts. What are the two parts? All right, so I'm going to show you on my paper, and then you're going to tell me the two parts that it's separating it into. So when I do a line right here, everything above it and everything below it, what are these two areas that I just separated it into? Raise your hand if you know. Okay, Adelaide?
Okay, so I think it's the sky and the ground or something.
Okay, great. And did I say your name correctly?
No.
How do I say it?
Oh, Adelaide.
Adelaide. Okay, remember, I keep in mind, I am learning all of your names, okay? So if I do say it incorrectly, please just tell me. So I am separating it from the ground and the sky. So everything below it is the ground, everything above it is the sky. Something unique about these artworks is they're going to have two horizon lines. Well, it's going to kind of be like horizon lines because this is going to be a ground where the objects are going to be the biggest. Who remembers what the biggest area was called, where it's all the way in the front? This is a blast from your past. Space can be broken down into background and then things in the middle. What's this area in the front here? Raise a silent hand if you know. Pop quiz. Okay, so it's probably been some time since you learned this. Joanna, do you remember?
The foreground.
Excellent, Joanna. So looking at our PowerPoint again, you can identify the things in the foreground, the things in the middle ground, and the things in the background. So at the top left over here, what are the things in the foreground? What can you see most of? In the foreground, we can see what, Anaya?
I could see like a lot of buildings.
Excellent. And what are the size of these buildings?
They're like really big.
Yeah, they're really big, and you can see them in the front there. Great. What would we say is in the middle ground? Elisha, in the middle ground?
In the middle ground, there's like different like roads.
Yeah, there's like roads in the middle ground. This must be like a futuristic looking town. All right, in the background, what are some of the things we see there? Okay, Masita, pencil down for now. Masita, what do you see in the background? So we said buildings in front, roads in the middle. In the back, what are some things you see? Name some items.
We see the sky, and we also see the top of the buildings.
Great. So what's going to make our artwork unique is that it's going to have several opportunities to bring in what's in the foreground, what's in the middle ground, and what's in the background, rather than just having one area that's the ground, okay? So step one is to decide how many buildings you'll have in the front and how many buildings you'll have in the back, okay? So you could do 2 to 5 for each. So you can have only 2 and 2 to make 4 in total, or you could have the max 5 and 5 to make 10 in total. I want you to make a note right now on the side of your paper how many buildings you will do on each. Raise your hand if you're doing 2 and 2, just 4 buildings in total. 2 in the front, 2 in the back. Okay, raise your hand if you are doing the max, 5 in the front and 5 in the back. Anyone? Oh, ambitious. Very nice. Emmanuel, Sinovia, Naya, great. And raise your hand if you're doing a mix. Maybe you'll do like 4 in the front and 3 in the back, or 3 in the front. Raise your hand if you're doing a mix. Great. I see Leonie's going to do a mix. Yeah, that's going to be very dynamic composition. Now, agree or disagree silently. We all know how to agree or disagree. Do all buildings look the same? Okay, so everyone's saying no, and that is absolutely true. As you can see here from these like simple house collages done by a class that's not mine, I just thought it was a cool picture, you could see a variety of different characteristics, which is what we're gonna really focus on today. We're not just doing rectangles with windows and just saying, oh, it's done. Nope, we're really gonna make sure to dive into these and make them something really special. So what you're going to do for each of the buildings you chose is you are going to take a look, take a look at this worksheet here, and for every single building that you've created, you can use this as a guide, which means, let's say my first building is going to be commercial because it's going to be a deli. Oh, it's also going to be residential because there's going to be people who live on top. I can circle residential, then commercial. Make notes on the side of your artwork. When I say the side, I do not want you to draw, and I'm going to stop sharing right now, and I'll bring this worksheet back up. Don't worry. I do not want you to draw on your final artwork. These are something that we're going to keep super nice and take pride in. So I would like you to find, kind of like my notes from last class, some scrap paper to take notes on the side. If you don't have scrap paper, please go and get it now. That's a paper separate from the one you're making your final work on. I see Sophia's going to get her scrap paper. Just take a quick minute to do that, and then I'm going to pull my worksheet back up and show you how we're going to do this. While you're waiting, I would like you to keep taking notes on your scrap paper. And perhaps, even though we're not going to keep them as rectangles, quickly sketch in your buildings in the front big and your buildings in the back small. I'm going to get started while you're doing that. The only reason why I was using Sharpie was that so you can see. So I'm going to put 3 buildings in total in the front, and they're not going to stay looking like, in the back, I'm going to make them small because they're in the back. Why are buildings in the back small? While we're waiting, why are the buildings in the back small? Amber, is that a hand?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, make sure you're sitting up. Amber, why are they small?
They're small because they're farther back, and when you see things from farther, they're smaller, and when you see things closer, they get bigger.
Excellent. She just explained space for us, space 101. Someone's paying attention. All right, so great. I am blocking out just 3. Now, I'm not going to keep them as that. I'm also going to block out what's going in the front. Now, hopefully you're using pencils because we're going to want to do a lot of erasing. I'm just going to do 2 structures in the front, okay? Once everyone blocked it out, you're going to sit in Scholar, put your pencils down, and put your eyes on me so I could show you how you will use the worksheet. I'm putting my eyes on you, and I want eyes on me very soon. If you have any questions at this time, you can raise your hand. We can try to get through a few before we get started here. By the way, I'm loving the participation. For those of you who haven't really been in the screen much, make sure that you are. So Delvis. Okay, there you are, Delvis. Hi. Make sure that I can see your eyes at all time. It really brings a sense of community in our art class when we can really feel like each other is listening and focused. Okay. We're gonna take a quick vote in a second before we get started. So we're coming back in 5, pencils down in 4. I'm looking for 100%, just like Katie, just like Sophia, Eric. Excellent examples. Hattie, you're done drawing now, and your eyes are on me in 3, 2, 1, and 0. Great. We're gonna take a quick vote. I wanna see what you decided to keep and what you decided to leave out. So raise your hand if you chose at least one building to be residential. Either raise your hand like this or on the screen. So Emily, you did not choose a residential? No. Can you explain why?
We all come.
I thought not to use residential because
So it was a choice, Emily? Interesting. Okay, great. Maybe the people live on a different part of the city. That's great. Okay, raise your hand if you chose commercial. At least one building is going to be commercial. Okay, great. What kind of commercial buildings do you have in mind, Jalisha? Jalisha? All right, Jalisha, your turn. What kind of commercial building do you have in mind? Can you give us an example? So Jalisha, if you're trying to talk, I cannot hear you. Make sure that your mic is on. You might want to do some troubleshooting, okay? I'll come back. Angelina, did you say you were adding a commercial building?
No.
No? Okay. Who said they were? Raise your hand again if you said you were a commercial. Remember, commercial was buy or sell. Katie, give me an example of a commercial building.
Pizza store.
Pizza store. Essential. I love pizza. Okay, Quincy, what did you say? What for commercial?
Okay, so what I was thinking about is having a supermarket mixed with a grocery store.
Great. So you have a mixed area. That's what I was going to ask next. Emily penciled down. Great. Raise your hand if you're doing industrial. If you're raising your hand, be prepared to share an example. Elijah, give me an example of an industrial place you'll have.
I would probably have parks.
Okay, so parks was in a different category. Remember the industrial services were the place of carefully disposing, transportation, systems, factories. Were you going to have one of those?
Yeah.
Is it going to be mixed in with the park?
Yes.
Interesting choice. Very cool. All right, raise your hand if you're doing institutions. Wow, not a lot of institutions. I see hand up from Izuku. Izuku, what's your institution? Okay.
My institute would be to like
So this is for people serviced. So did you have one of those?
Yeah. My type of service would be that I would make a certain type of hotel, a certain type, and it's more of a something for a certain type of people, but it's a type of hotel that's gonna be in Japan.
So I like that you're setting up, you're doing a setting. Make sure that you're thinking through the categories though, because I think we were looking for more like schools, government buildings. Raise your hand if anyone was going to do those kinds of things. Algo Simu, make sure that you are sitting up. Joanna, do you have an institution you are going to do? What was it?
I have a few like a fire station, police station, and a school.
Great. Okay. Those are excellent institutions. And then, of course, the famous parks, which we talked about making our neighborhoods environmentally friendly. So, Sam, I love that you are excited to be here in art, but make sure that your pencil's down for now. We are going to draw soon, I promise. Okay, so before we get our drawing skills on, I need all eyes to be on the screen. So, Quincy, waiting on you. Delvis, Darwin's pencil down. I see so many of you participating, showing me that you're ready, like Anaya, Johanna. We're not drawing yet. Lysandra, get in the screen. Great. Okay, so there's no laying down in art, and there's also no eating or drinking. Make sure that you save that for break time. Okay, so coming back to our worksheet here, I am not going to be able to draw and show you at the same time. So listening to my words very closely. Alejandro, eyes, and Naya, get back in the screen. For each and every building, you will go through the worksheet on the left-hand side and then the worksheet on the right-hand side to brainstorm each and every one. Anthony, focus. So let's say my first building is going to be an art store. That is considered commercial. I would circle commercial. I'm gonna think about what is it on? Is it tree line, boulevard, busy highway, curvy road, other? That's how I'm going to brainstorm it. And remember, when we're brainstorming, we are doing it on a separate piece of paper. You will then move into what your buildings are near. The transportation that can take place, and this is optional, you're not going to have a transportation every single building you have, it's just something to consider. You might want to consider landscaping. What's landscaping? Raise your hand if you know. What is landscaping? Go ahead, Joseph.
I think landscaping might be like probably adding plants, or like probably adding